Hello again. Today in this video lecture I discuss limit test for chloride in terms of its procedure. That means today I will discuss the procedure which is involved in limit test of chloride. Now, as I said earlier, that limit test of chloride is based on a simple chemical reaction, and the net outcome of that reaction is visually compared in order to rule out the result. So anyhow, the net outcome of that particular reaction which is involved in the limit test of chloride is the formation of turbidity or opalescence, which is compared subsequently with test sample in order to determine the net quantity of impurity, which is here is the chloride present in the test sample. So before moving towards the procedure, or before moving for the procedural detail, we first should know how the sample are prepared before performing the limit test of chloride. The preparation of sample is important as it anyhow affects the final outcome of the result. So, in order to have error-free result, a sample must be prepared, and preparation of the sample should be done on the basis of its physiochemical characteristic. For an example, in a case if we are handling alkali hydroxides or we are handling carbonate, as these compounds are alkaline in nature, that is, they are having pH greater than 7, so such type of compounds must be neutralized with the help of acid. So anyhow, in a case we are handling alkali hydroxide or we are handling carbonate, in such a case these samples must be treated with excess acid so that their basic property or their alkaline nature is well neutralized. If this not be happen, or in a case if their alkaline property is not well neutralized, we are getting whatever the result, it is not up to the mark. Likewise, the substances which are itself insoluble, as the insoluble substance creates the problem, or their insolubility, or because of insolubility of these substances, we get the final result, that is the opalescence or turbidity, not only because of the final outcome of the reaction, but also because of the initial insolubility of the sample. And in a such case, whatever the opalescence or the turbidity we are getting, it is again not the correct one, or it is not the true result, or it does not give us a true result. Because here, in case of this insoluble material, or in case of such insoluble substances, the turbidity or opalescence is produced because of their solubility problem, and not because of the final outcome of the reaction. So, whenever we are handling insoluble substances, for an example, if we are handling light kaolins, or we are handling magnesium trisilicate, such insoluble substances are initially boiled with a mixture containing water and dilute nitric acid, and once the content get cooled down, it should be filtered, and the filtrate is further used for the limit test of chloride. Now, in a case, if we are handling colored substances, for example, in a case we are handling potassium permanganate for limit test of chloride, or any other substance or substance other than potassium permanganate for the limit test of chloride, in such a case, wherever we are making use of colored substances, these substances, because of their self-coloring property, will again hamper the final outcome or the result of the test. So, these colored substances must be decolorized properly by adopting suitable chemical or physical procedures, and once these colored substances are properly decolorized, they are further used or exposed for the limit test of chloride. So anyhow, on the basis of whatsoever, or what is on the basis of physiochemical property of the sample, we first have to suitably convert our sample in such a form so that it will not hamper the limit test of, or the final outcome for the limit test of chloride. So anyhow, once we are done with the preparation of sample or the sample preparation, and once our sample is ready for the limit test of chloride, then we have to move towards the procedure. So let us look into the procedure for limit test of chloride. So as I said, in order to perform limit test of chloride and to have a visual comparative study, we have to prepare simultaneously two solutions. A test solution and standard solution. So, test solution means this is the solution in which the net quantity of impurity, that is chloride, is unknown, and hence as the test solution have unknown quantity of chloride, we have to compare the turbidity of the test solution or the opalescence produced by the test solution by adopting the procedure for limit test of chloride. That particular opalescence or turbidity is compared with the standard solution, or it is also known as reference solution. So in standard solution or in reference solution, the net concentration of chloride is well known, and it is within a defined, or it is within a predefined limit. And as here in such case, or here in this case, that is in case of standard solution, as it is having a defined quantity of impurity, this particular solution is used as a standard solution to which the test is compared in order to rule out the result. So let us look into how we prepare test in the standard solution purposefully for limit test of chloride. So for making test solution, we need a sample plus reagents. So in a case the sample is well dissolved in the water, or it is having a very good solubility, or the sample is not colored, or the sample is not alkali hydroxide, or it is not a carbonate. In such a case, the sample is directly exposed to the limit test of chloride. However, in a case, if the sample is having any such problem, that is, it is a carbonate, it is a alkali hydroxide, or it is insoluble in the water, or it is a colored one. So in all such cases, the sample must be pre-treated, and it must be pre-treated as per the procedure given or it must be prepared anyhow as per the method which I discussed earlier. So anyhow, the sample whatsoever is intended to be used for the limit test of chloride, it must be first dissolved in a definite quantity of water, that is 10 ml of distilled water, and it is recommended to use distilled water for dissolving the sample rather than using the raw water or the tap water, as the raw water or the tap water itself contains chloride, and in such a case chloride from tap water will again causes problem or will gives us the negative result or the false result. So anyhow, the sample must be first dissolved in definite quantity of distilled water and transferred to the specific apparatus or the glassware meant for the limit test, that is the Nessler's cylinder. So initially we have to transfer the sample, or we have to dissolve the sample in the definite quantity, that is a 10 ml of distilled water, or in a case we have to adopt the procedure as given in the official monographs or pharmacopoeias. So once we are done with the step 1, we have to move for the step 2. So in step 2, we have to add 10 ml of dilute HNO3 to the content, as in step 2 we are handling the acid, although it is a diluted one, then also suitable care must be taken during this particular step. Once the addition is done, then again we have to add 1 ml of 5% silver nitrate, followed by addition of distilled water, quantity sufficient for or quantity sufficient to 50 ml. So once we are done with this particular step, that is step 1, 2, 3 and 4, the net quantity of or the net volume of our test solution is equals to the 50 ml, which is up to the mark of Nessler cylinder, or which is up to the mark of Nessler cylinder, that is equals to 50 ml anyhow. So once we are done with all this step up to the 4, the content should be stirred gently and it is kept aside for 5 minutes at room temperature and further compared, and the turbidity whatsoever is produced is then compared with the standard for the final outcome. In order to prepare a standard solution, we can take either sodium chloride or hydrochloric acid. So in a case, if we are taking standard as a hydrochloric acid, then we have to use 1 ml of 0.01 N, that is normal hydrochloric acid. Or in a case, if we are using sodium chloride as a standard, in such a case we have to use 0.05845% weight by volume of sodium chloride. And this 1 ml of standard, whether it is hydrochloric acid or it is a sodium chloride, that particular standard solution is transferred to another Nessler cylinder, which is the official glassware or the standard glassware purposefully used for the limit tests. So once we are done with the step 1, that is that as we have taken the 1 ml of either hydrochloric acid or sodium chloride, here after this step 1 we can add right here 10 ml of distilled water, which I here not mentioned. Anyhow, we can here add 10 ml of distilled water right after step 1. However, in a case also we can add 10 ml of dilute HNO3. However, it is better to add 10 ml of distilled water right after the step 1 rather than directly adding the 10 ml of dilute nitric acid. However, anyhow, we can skip that particular step also, that is the addition of 10 ml of distilled water right after the step 1. So anyhow, once we are done with the step 1, we have to move for the step 2, that is the addition of 10 ml of dilute HNO3. And as I said, in case of the standard solution, that 10 ml of HNO3 or as the HNO3 is an acid, it must be added carefully into the Nessler cylinder, and the one who is performing the limit test should not be comes in direct contact with the acid, although it is a diluted one. Instead, it must be avoided for the direct contact with the body. In step 3, we have to add same 5% 1 ml silver nitrate solution. Then we have to add distilled water quantity sufficient 50 ml. And once we are done with the step 1 to 4, what we have to do? We have to stir our content gently with a glass rod, and the standard solution is then kept aside for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes the opalescence or the turbidity produced is further compared for the outcome. So this is the routine procedural detail for performing limit test of chloride. So anyhow, I here mentioned 50 ml distilled water in between the step 2 and step 3 in the test solution, as well as I also mentioned In standard, the same one, that is the 50 ml of distilled water in between the step 2 and the step 3. So in most of the literature, it is recommended to add distilled water between the step 2 and 3, and this particular addition of distilled water is anyhow gets discriminated from literature to literature. In some it is given that the distilled water must be added between the second and the third step, and in some case it was stated that the distilled water must be added at the last in order to make the volume up to 50 ml. So anyhow, whatsoever or at whatsoever step this particular distilled water is added, we have to keep in our mind that the net quantity or the net volume produced by the test sample and the standard sample and the standard solution must not be exceeded than the 50 ml, which is the final volume of Nessler cylinder. So anyhow, if we are adding the 50 ml right in between the step 2 and 3, either in the case of test solution or either in the case of standard solution, or in a case if we are adding the 50 ml at the last, that is at the step 4 in case of test solution or in a case of standard solution, in both such cases we have to be careful for the final volume, that is 50 ml. Our final volume must be 50 ml for test solution as well as for the test standard solution. It doesn't matter at what step we are adding the distilled water. So let us further know regarding the result analysis or the outcome in limit test of chloride. So in order to simplify the net outcome or the result analysis of limit test for chloride, I here depicted the same in a tabulated manner, and this table contains 4 columns, and I just describe all these 4 columns as: the very first one is for the test sample or the test solution. The second column, which indicates OPLS, is it is indicating opalescence or the turbidity. The third column, STD, is for the standard solution, and the fourth one contains the outcome or the result for the limit test. So anyhow, in very first row, we are here observing down arrows under the test and the down arrow under the opalescence and an upward arrow in standard. So here this down and up arrows indicates the degree of opalescence produced. These arrows, that is, the down arrow indicates less opalescence, upward arrow indicates high opalescence, and the horizontal arrows indicates equal opalescence. So anyhow, in the very first row, we are getting the 2 down arrows under the test and the opalescence. This indicates that the test have opalescence less than that of standard. as the standard is having an up arrow. So in such a case in which the test opalescence produced by the test sample is less than the opalescence produced by the standard sample, our final outcome for the limit test of chloride is that the sample passes the test, as it contains less quantity of chloride compared to the standard. Now under the second column we are getting a horizontal arrows or horizontal bidirectional arrows. These bidirectional arrows are equal or the same one in case of test sample as well as in the standard sample and also in under the opalescence. So this means the opalescence produced by the test sample is similar or same as produced by the standard sample, and here also our final outcome is the pass. That is, our sample passes the limit test of chloride as it is having the similar or comparatively the similar opalescence as produced by the test solution. Now in third row, the test indicates more opalescence as it's having an upward arrow than that of standard. Here the standard has the downward arrow. So in such a case where the opalescence or the turbidity produced by the test sample is greater than the opalescence or the turbidity produced by the standard sample, and in such a case the limit test for the chloride fails. So this is how the final outcome or the result analysis is done for the limit test of chloride.